Alright, Brent Forsey at TopVelocity.net, doing a pitch analysis here of Nathan. Going to pair him up with a Sal. He's the Japanese pitcher I like to use. He's 5'9", 5'10", 150 something pounds, high 90s. Typical small high velocity pitcher, does everything right because he has to. Little guys can't get away with much. So he's very quick, very efficient. So ultimately, they're great guys to compare yourself to because they do everything right. So you can see a lot of room for improvement. Ultimately, in your comparison. So let's see how it holds up with Nathan. Let's take Nathan here. We got him into his leg lift. They got a sound his leg lift here, coming out of his leg lift. You can see here Nathan's really balanced up over that drive leg, where we don't want to get caught too balanced up here. High velocity guys, just like we can see here, they shift their weight early, they get inside their drive leg and they get going. The other thing is, Nathan, you're breaking your knee and pushing it forward. It's fine with break your knee. We just want to push the butt back, and we want to be in a we want to establish a good base here, which means our weight is going to be from our heels into our power pads. We don't want to get up too much up on our power pads, because then we get up closer to our toes and our knees start pushing forward. And then if our knees start pushing forward, if we start moving, our knees continue to push forward, then we tend to collapse, because once that knee breaks the toes, we start to really put all that stress in that patella tendon. That tendon isn't going to hold that, so it feels like it's going to collapse. So as we can see here with Sal, he's sitting back more towards his heel with his butt, and balanced, but moving forward. So that's a good base to establish coming from here, because that's the same base we would establish, say, in a squat position or squatting in a strength, in the weight room. And in a squat, what we're going to do is you're just going to drop a load, drop our butt down, and then be able to drive it up. So it's the best position to be able to handle a heavy load. And when we move from lift to our load position, as we take our force vector down, which is our ankle to knee, into that linear position, we also want to hit that peak flexion. We want to hit that point where we move forward and down at the same rate from our lift to load, to where we still keep that weight over the drive leg. We've got it linear, and like I said, most everything is right on that drive leg. So we are putting down a lot of weight, so we want to be in a position, specifically the drive leg, where we can handle that load, and so we have a good base. So pushing the knee forward ultimately doesn't establish a really good base. Okay, so just to take that, push the butt back, and get that knee more vertical, but start taking that force vector down as you come out of your lift. Let's take you to your load. So you can see your lift leg is taking off pretty quickly. Your lift leg knee is breaking your front hip here, and that drive leg knee is still pushing over your toes. Okay, so the reason I like to make sure when our drive leg knee breaks our front hip that we're in a linear force vector, because when this left leg gets out, it likes to open up, and then it likes to put down. So those two things we don't want happening until we achieve triple extension, and we can't achieve triple extension for front foot strike until this force vector is in a linear position, because if we extend at this point, we jump, and that doesn't serve our purpose. The reason for a triple extension, the reason for the drive, is it has to be as linear as possible, so when the leg starts to drive, it starts to drive the hip around. That's what we want. Watch this Sal here. This is very common of high velocity pitchers. They do something to keep the lift leg from getting out early. In the case of Sal here, like Trevor Bauer, he extends the leg and kind of holds the knees together, holds it back as he takes off and leads with the hip. Other pitchers will tuck that leg, keep it in tight as the hips lead. Well, most pitchers will really swing it back hard and take off forward at the same time. Either way, when the lift leg knee breaks the front hip, we see they tend to be more closer to this linear position. In the case of Sal, he does it perfectly. So you can see he's still closed off here, perfectly linear here. So now he's ready. So this can open up, this can put down, and he's in a position to triple extend before that happens. As you can see, you're not in that position. So ultimately, this is, if we break it back to here, this is, you're in the same position here. Your lift leg is in the same position. And you can even see your glove side is still in the same position. The only problem is your force vector is off. And this is where we get caught in those inverted L's, inverted W's. Because if you're this far behind a Sal when your lift leg is in the same position and your hand brake is in the same position, because our hands tend to brake when our lift leg starts to descend, which we can see here both identical hand positions. But if you are still this vertical, you're going to have to continue to drift out. So you're going to drift out. This is going to continue to extend out and even open your lift leg. And then this guy might finally line up. And this guy is just going to keep going up, 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 up. And we're going to get into these inverted L's, inverted W's, because we're taking so long to get going forward. So let's see what happens. So you continue to reach out. There's your arm going up, up, up. Up, up, up. Your drive leg gets down, but you never extend. You just collapse. So, I mean, you get to this position here before your arm gets up into an inverted L. More than likely, you put the front foot down because your arm was cocked and ready. So your drive leg got in a linear position, but it just got too late. You were an inch from putting it down. So, like I said, when this front foot gets too far out, where the weight starts coming down, and the front foot gets open, where that drive leg knee starts turning down because the hips are rotating, there's not much you can do with this drive leg here. Because the weight's starting to sit up here, the knee's turning down, and the ankle is being twisted with the foot flush on the rubber. So it's just going to collapse because it's not in a position to drive or explode forward. So then you're going to hit front drive leg foot still in the rubber. When your drive leg foot's still in the rubber and your front foot lands down, that means you got weight pulling this down. That's a problem. We know high velocity pitchers get their hips open earlier after front foot strike than low velocity pitchers, and faster. Watch here. So in this load position, as we move into triple extension before front foot strike, which we can see as Sal do really, really well here, you can see he starts to open up, put down, and at the same time he starts to extend and drive. Look at that back hip. See how it just starts to how dynamic it is? It just starts to take off and explode open. And this is all before the front foot even lands. That's that triple extension through the drive leg, driving the hip around. So when he lands, boom, right there, this back leg is extended and this hip is driven forward. So when the back leg is extended, it takes the hip forward. When the back leg collapses, it takes the hip down. So if we're going to move like high velocity pitchers and open the hips earlier and faster, we can't do that with a dead fish back here with a dead back leg, because it's going to put a weight on this back hip and hold it down and prevent it from getting open early, as opposed to driving it open before front foot strike, which is why we want to achieve triple extension before front foot strike. Now the reason we've got to get the hips open so early is because it's the only way we're going to create this optimal hip to shoulder separation. Let's take you to when your hips finally open. So here's your hips at the same point, at the same moment they open as the Sal's hips. He's still cocked and closed and has optimal hip shoulder separation. Your hips and shoulders move together, so your arm is externally rotated and ready to throw the same point your hips opened up. So you have no hip shoulder separation. Sal has optimal hip shoulder separation, and we know based on MPA's 2005-2006 case study that a pitcher's ability to separate his hips and shoulders at front foot strike is 80% of his potential velocity. So we can see here Sal's tapped into pretty much all that when you haven't. So to me, that tells you that you have a lot to work for, but you have a lot to gain at the same time. So it should give you a lot of confidence that through the 3x pitch velocity program, as you learn to convert an explosive stride into this optimal hip to shoulder separation, you can move yourself into a high velocity pitcher the more you get. You're sitting at 0 to 5 degrees of separation when a sow is more like 50 to 60 degrees of separation. So this is your goal. This is 3x pitching, taking that drive leg, that triple extension into front foot strike, getting those hips to power open early, creating this kind of hip to shoulder separation. This is going to put you in the high velocity category, but this is something that takes a lot of time, and ultimately that's what we work to do in the 16 weeks of the 3x velocity system. Alright, so once we do this, then everything from here continues to pretty much be a reaction, except for the front leg. The front leg continues to do a lot of the work and stabilize it, and then extend and move into extension before pitch release. It allows these force multipliers to continue to multiply the speeds of the body. So you can see once we get this kind of torque, then the shoulders are going to launch into forward trunk tilt, and also that rotation is going to accelerate the hips because of that force multiplier. The arms then going to react by pulling back into optimal external rotation, and we get that early internal rotation, which is behind the head with that good forward trunk tilt front leg extension. You can see, because you didn't create the torsion in your body, you got you got it external rotated early, but not enough of it, because you're very vertical and you're not all the way 180, and you have a bent front leg. So you can see your external rotation, or your elbow keeps pushing out in front of your face, and you're still external rotated, and you get late internal rotation pronation, and you still finish in that vertical position. So this is that low velocity category. If you're able to do what most high velocity pitchers do, which is get more front leg extension, more forward trunk tilt at the same time they get that optimal external rotation, then as long as you stay stable in that front leg, you're going to then explode out into early internal rotation, more forward trunk tilt, and ultimately hit some full front leg extension. And that just means you continued really well. He continued to do an exceptional job of transferring that energy that he generated through his stride out and multiply it up the kinetic chain into the ball. So he continued to stay in that high velocity category. And so it's like once you're able to put this kind of torsion and torque in your body, speed and power in your body, then as long as you stay stable and you let everything continue to react and multiply up the body, then you continue to explode up into a high velocity category. So I hope this shows you ultimately where you need to spend your time, which is pretty much common on most high velocity pitchers, is learning how to get the drive leg linear and then get that explosive triple extension and have that affect your hip rotation and your hip shoulder separation. We focus on that first in the 3x pitch velocity program, taking that drive leg power, creating that early hip rotation into this optimal hip shoulder separation, because that's the bread and butter of 3x pitching. It's really the foundation of high velocity pitchers. And then from there we learn how to get linear earlier, so then we can actually implement that into our delivery. So that in itself is a tremendous mountain to climb, but 3x pitching velocity program gives you a ton of tools to do it, and I hope this video analysis helps kind of get you started or get you headed down your path. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and I wish you the best.